Kathy the Vegan Prepper here, and today I'm doing a bit of a life update, maybe day in the life type thing. I don't know. First off, I'm making some cookies. I'm using the Pickup Limes 1 bowl soft vegan chocolate chip cookie recipe, which is so good, and I can link that recipe down below. And this is part of the life update stuff. Those are my crutches, and we are going to kind of get through this, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit about this. This is my bag that I have to carry things while I am on my crutches, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about. But first of all, I'm gonna make up some cookies, and then we'll get into talking about what's been going on with me. Vegan prepper, vegan prepper. So this recipe is to just cream coconut oil and brown sugar with a fork. It's just such an easy recipe. I love it. I make this recipe over and over again. This is our favorite chocolate chip cookie recipe. And then because I don't really stock brown sugar, I stock sugar and molasses. I just sort of make my own brown sugar in the first step. And so molasses and sugar and coconut oil are getting mixed together at the same time, and it turns out really well. Now, I will say that sometimes you can tell there's been a bit of a change in like the moisture content of the recipe when you're adding molasses in to your sugar like this to make your brown sugar. You can try using a little less molasses if you want, but overall, I don't know, it just seems to work out. And like I said, I just mix it directly in the bowl. I don't even mix it separately first anymore. I used to, but then I was like, what is the point? So I started trying to do it just in the bowl, and it turned out totally fine. So it's just a very simple, like they say, it's one bowl, and it really is just such a wonderful recipe for cookies. And if you don't know, the ratio for creating your own brown sugar out of sugar, I'm sorry if that was the shakiest camera work ever, but it's 1 tablespoon per cup of sugar. So 1 tablespoon of molasses per cup of sugar is how you make brown sugar out of that sugar. And so the recipe calls for 2/3 cup of sugar. So I used 2 teaspoons of molasses in order to create that ratio. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just continue with the next steps, and yeah, enjoy myself. This is a fun little process. Get to a certain point where your recipe looks like this, if you're following that recipe, where you have all of the fat and sugar kind of solidified together, but all the liquid stuff is not quite mixed, and it doesn't ever really get mixed. So this is what it is supposed to look like before you move on to the next step. The final step is to add flour and then gently fold in chocolate chips. And that's another place where I deviate from the recipe. I just dump in my chocolate chips, and I always use 2 types of chocolate chips. I use these happen to be from Costco. They had a giant bag of accidentally vegan chocolate chips at Costco over the holidays. But normally I'll use like the chocolate chips from Trader Joe's. And then these are bittersweet mini chocolate chips from Azure Standard. And I just like to put both types of chocolate chips in, and it just makes it delicious. But anyway, dump in your chocolate chips, and then I dump in the flour, and I mix everything together at the same time, because it's like recipes are always cautioning you not to overmix once your flour is in, but then they have you like fold in raisins or blueberries or chocolate chips at the end. I never understood that. I always will add those additions with the flour to avoid the overmixing. Like, it makes sense to me. Does anybody else kind of do the same thing? I don't know. I'm a tiny bit of a rebel. For the most part, I know that you need to follow the instructions when you're baking, because baking is serious business. But every now and then I'm like, why not just do it this way instead? And that is one of the things that I do, and everything turns out well. This is essentially it. I am going to get in there with my hands now to do the final putting everything together and then start rolling some cookies. I'm very excited. And so we don't eat cookie dough in our house. I don't know if other people do. I know I grew up eating cookie dough, and it like wasn't a big deal, but it turns out that it isn't the egg that is worrisome so much. It's potentially the flour is what could be contaminated. So raw flour is the thing that's not quite safe to eat raw. People might think I'm being paranoid about that, but as soon as I found out, I couldn't keep doing it. Now, if I do have a recipe where I need cookie dough, I would absolutely pick this cookie dough as my recipe, but I could pre-bake the flour, and then being a vegan dough, it doesn't have eggs or, you know, anything like that. So you don't have to worry about any, I'm not going to say raw eggs are healthy. I don't think those are healthy either. They have risks as well. But People think if they leave the eggs out, they might be able to eat the dough. So I just thought I would mention that it's actually the contaminated flour. So I would pre-bake the flour if I were making a cookie dough that we were intending to eat. Like if I were mixing it into a bar or putting it into an ice cream or something like that. So anyway, these are getting baked though as cookies, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that and stop talking, you guys. Sorry. Right, here is the pile of dishes I have now. So it's pretty small. That's one of the other things I love about this recipe is it feels very low impact. And so there is, you know, obviously the bowl as well, and then the cookie sheets, but it's really, really not like you're gonna tear up your entire kitchen for one recipe, and I so appreciate that. I apologize for being in a bit of a state right now, but this is just sort of the way that I am right now. This is the way you're gonna have to just accept me and love me in just complete disarray. And so basically what's been going on with me lately is I just recently had an arthroscopic knee surgery to repair some damage that I had done a year and a half ago. I injured myself while doing personal training. I was doing lunges basically, and I went kind of too far. I felt something happen inside of my knee, just kept thinking it was going to get better, and then it never did, and life just was so busy and I wasn't thinking about it too much. I just recognized I had a really badly hurting knee in a lot of instances, and so it basically completely cut off all my walking and all the exercise that I had to do. And so finally I was like, I have to get this taken care of. Went to the doctor, got imaging done. Sure enough, yeah, I really messed my knee up pretty bad. So he needed to go in and fix stuff on both sides of my knee. I'm still not 100% sure exactly what happened. I have my follow-up appointment today for my after surgery follow-up appointment. I'm looking at a 4 to 6 week recovery time. I am in my 2nd week now, so I'm hobbling around okay, but every now and then my knee will just like forget how to knee, and I'll just like go woo, like, and it'll like give out, and it's a little scary. And so I am definitely keeping the crutches with me. I still really do need to use my crutches in certain situations, primarily after I've been sitting for a while. When I go to get up, I need the crutches to support me because my knee will be super stiff and sore, at least until I get it moving again. And then usually at that point I can kind of hobble around without them, but I do always have them very near to me. And oftentimes I'm just using one crutch, almost like a little walking stick through the house. And that's kind of where I am right now. So, oh, that's the timer for the cookies. Let's go get those. Normally I add a minute for the first batch because it seems like the first batch never has long enough to cook, but I know how slow I am right now. So I put the regular time, so I'll be able to go get those. And by the time I get there, they should be cooked enough. Now I'm gonna take you and put you into my bag and carry you into the kitchen. Oh yeah, they look beautiful. Oh gosh, that's one of the other things I really love about this particular recipe is they don't spread too far. Obviously a couple of them I got maybe a little too close, but you can end up packing your cookie tray with quite a few more than you expect, just because they, like I said, they just don't really spread that far. So I will go ahead and get these cooling and make the last batch and see you back at my desk. These are officially poison in our house. I don't know if anybody else does similar things, but we always joke, like when we make stuff in our house, like we have to taste test it and make sure that it's not poisonous. But it has evolved into this thing in our house where when something is truly absolutely delicious, you say that it's poison because the joke is, oh, it's poisonous. I'm gonna sacrifice myself and I'll just eat it all myself and you guys don't need to have any. So it's just the joke because it's so good that you don't want to share, essentially, is what that means. And so in our house, when we say something is poison, it means it's really good. So anyway, but yes, they are absolutely delicious. I'm taking a couple to my daughter. It's time for me to go pick her up. I think I might have already said that. And a little drink for her, a little snack. I'm very happy to have made those cookies. So I'm happy like that I didn't get as tired as I thought I would get. I'm not hurting as much as I thought I would hurt. Because, you know, there's just not very much in our house right now. Not like homemade yummy goodness or anything. Really not very many store-bought things either. We have like all of our bulk supplies, but we don't have anything really that's just easy to grab as a yummy little treat because I'm also not really shopping at the grocery store right now. I'm having to wait for Adam to do that. Poor guy, he has like everything thrust on him right now. And so he's an incredible human being. I would say that he's exceeding my expectations, but he's not. We've been married 20 years at this point, you know. I my expectations are extremely high because he has set the bar so high. I know what he's like by now, and it's just him being him, you know. He's an incredible man. I'm seriously one of the most blessed women on this planet. But yeah, he's incredible. He's been taking care of everything, but he also, you know, he's working, he's doing all this, like, so he hasn't had time to run to the store. And this weekend we could have gone to the store, but man, some other stuff went down. I'll have to tell you about that later because I really do need to go pick up my daughter. But I'll tell you some of the other stuff that's been going down in my life, and kind of using up some time and being a bit sad. Yeah, it's not my favorite. We'll say that, it's not my favorite. Cookie and treats, cookie and drink, I guess I should say, in the bag, ready to go. So I just can grab the bag with my fingers at the same time as I'm grabbing the crutches. And then that's how we travel. Have stuff, we'll travel. So there's this hawk that flies and circles this area over by our house, hunting. I see it most days, usually though in the morning. Right now it's after 1. I don't think I've ever seen it like in the afternoon. I wonder if it wasn't successful this morning. But when the hawk is out, I can't do anything else but sit here and watch it. Does anybody else like have something like that shows up in your life? I just love it so much. I can't tell if it's a red-tailed hawk or a desert hawk. But I can tell just very distinctly from the markings on the underneath of the wings alone, it is some form of hawk. It's a beautiful giant bird, and sometimes I do actually see it just gliding and hovering, and then the wings will fold in when it goes to dive. The other day I saw it dive, and it actually flew back over my house, like from the window here. And I saw it with a fish in its talons. It's obviously, I guess, maybe a little sad for the fish, but you know, the hawk has to eat too, so I know how nature works. I'm vegan, but I still know how nature works, okay? So yeah, I just love watching it. It's just the coolest thing. So if it gets close enough that I think I can get some good footage, I will get some footage of it for you. Pretty cool, huh? Like I said, I wish I had a better camera. I wish I could get a better shot for you. There are these, so there's like random little lakes kind of everywhere, which is something that I think not a lot of people know about Phoenix, Phoenix area. Almost every park has some kind of lake, and people fish at them. The lakes get stocked with fish. We also have a pretty intricate and big canal system here. And so the hawk is up there. I'm like worried I'm gonna miss something. Oh, it flew off. Okay, anyway, a pretty big intricate canal system, and a lot of the canals that we still use to this day were originally laid down by the Hohokam. And so it was just an indigenous tribe that settled in this area. And they created a huge and intricate and amazing network of canals to help themselves, you know, farm and kind of survive in this area. And I just think it's really neat. Like, we're still using some of what they figured out in our city to this day. And so it's kind of really interesting to like look into. Like, if I know it's like probably not something that you really think about or know about if you don't live here, you're not taught or you don't hear about it, but you look up at the Hohokam Canal system in Phoenix and sort of read about the Hohokam and kind of like learn about that. It's some interesting reading. So anyway. Oh my gosh, I'm getting texts from my son. I sent him a text with a picture of the cookies that I made, and he goes, "Yay," all caps. Let me see what he says now. Oh, he says, "It's hilarious how much that totally made my day." That makes me feel good. I don't like not being well. I don't know why I'm getting teary-eyed about it. I love that he's happy about the cookies. So part of making the cookies is like, Mom is back. Maybe not quite 100%, but like, I'm gonna start, you know, making stuff and stocking our house with things again. And so, yeah, so when he gets home from his very late rehearsal's going on right now, and he'll have some cookies. So anyway, if Sage doesn't eat them all, no, I'm kidding. I made a lot. She's not gonna eat them all. Yes, so we're back. I have a doctor's appointment I need to leave for in like an hour and a half, and so that's my follow-up appointment for my surgery. Sorry for how chaotic all the filming is, but it's just sort of the way the day goes. And I did say I was going to share some of the other kind of not so fun stuff that's been going on, but I figured first of all, let me share with you a couple of fun things that I think are fun, so that we don't have to, like, I don't know, not have fun things. And so I have scored, finally, I've been looking for months for a pasta maker on Facebook Marketplace. And I just like wait for a really long time. And then when I see good deals, I jump, you know? And so I'm willing for certain things like a pasta maker, like that's definitely not something that I necessarily need immediately. It's not even something I necessarily need. It's just yet another tool that I've been wanting to add to kind of like my arsenal of appliances that I have around, so that I can make basically almost anything I need at any time. I'm not going to say that I'm going to start making all of my own pasta, but I'm really looking forward to experimenting, especially with the home ground wheat. I've been doing so much work now with home ground flour, home milling flour. I'm going to see if I can figure out the timing and possibly make a loaf of bread today. And those two things, that will be it for me. It's very difficult now that I've had the success with the cookies. It's super difficult for me to hold myself back now from starting to make literally everything. Like I was already driving to pick up Sage. I'm thinking, oh, I could probably make some tortillas. I could make some bread. I could make some this. Like I was making a huge list of things that I could start making. And I have to pull myself back and be like, no, no, calm down and just focus on recovery. It's okay. I don't have to do all the things, but it's been kind of it's only been like a week and a half, but it feels like it's been eternity since I have been able to do stuff. And I thrive on doing things like with my hands and kind of being in motion. And that's just sort of my personality, is very go, 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 do. I'm laughing now because if my husband were here, he'd be like, you said do. So yes, you're getting me like totally 100% unscripted today. And just 100% just me. This is what we're getting today. I'm letting you into a lot of stuff in my family, I guess. But yeah, so that's kind of my personality. It's very hard for me to rein it in and just like, no, we're going to focus a little bit more right now on resting and recuperating. I'm not going to be up. I'm not going to be walking around, but I feel like, especially with Sage here to help me a little bit, she can help me carry some things, you know, I feel like I should be able to do bread. And then even if I do at the very end, if I just leave everything on the counter that I got out, you know, like my date syrup and my wheat and whatever, even if I just leave it all out, I feel like that's fine. And then like Elliot or Adam can put it away when they get home, and you know, just help me out that way. So I think I will go ahead and make a loaf of bread later, but I have to figure out the timing because I do have the doctor's appointment. But yes, I have, what's my point? The pasta maker. Hello, tangent, smiled friend. Okay, so the pasta maker I got on Facebook Marketplace. And so I was so excited. I scored a KitchenAid attachment that had barely been used. And in fact, we looked at it coming out of the package and I was like, this looks pretty like brand new. Like it doesn't look like it's ever been used, even though the person did say that they had used it like twice. But they just are clearing it out. They don't want it anymore. And I looked up the same exact thing on Amazon and it's $190 for this attachment for the KitchenAid. But I got that plus a full pasta maker, like a crank pasta maker, the type where, you know, you roll the sheets out and whatnot. And I got both of those things together for $40. I was completely beside myself. So I'm really looking forward to figuring out this KitchenAid attachment and the crank one. I've used a crank pasta maker several times before, like way back in the day. I was decluttering and I got rid of one because I was like, I never use it. And it was true back in that time, I wasn't using it at all. But now I wanted it back. And so I went ahead and got another one. And so I'm very excited to kind of move forward. So I found a video too on YouTube. There's this guy, I just have started watching a lot of his videos. He's called the Mensch Chef, I want to say. I'm probably pronouncing it incorrectly. I'll link his channel below. I'll also link the video below that I watched where he said you can turn any legume into a pasta. And so he was making bean pasta using only bean flour and water, and sort of giving tips on how to do that. And so I would like to do that by grinding some of my own beans here and turning that into pasta. And in the video, he was actually using the KitchenAid, that very same attachment that I just got. He was using that for making his pastas. And so I'm going to be working with that. And like I said, I also want to do some home ground wheat pasta and see how well can I make that happen. There is actually, you know, pretty much every fresh pasta recipe online that you look for, you will find almost across the board has egg added to the pasta recipe. But if you look up pasta bianca, you don't necessarily have to look up a vegan pasta recipe. If you look up pasta bianca, which is apparently, I hope I'm getting this correct, it's apparently more normal in southern Italy to have pasta bianca, which is pasta without any egg in it. That egg pastas are more of a North Italy thing. It's possible that that is actually reversed. That, you know, so don't, you know, please don't get mad at me if I just got that wrong. But I'm pretty sure that I'm remembering right that pasta bianca, which is no egg pasta, it's just semolina flour and water. That's it. That's how they make their pasta more in southern Italy, and then Northern Italy will add the egg and whatnot. So I'm very eager to try this out and see if I can make my own pastas from home ground flour. I have some questions. I'm not sure that they can be answered, because part of the issue with home ground flour, obviously, is that once you grind it, it begins to go rancid rather quickly because of the presence of the germ and all of the vitamin E oil. And it's so nutritious for you, but really only if you use it within the first little bit. So I am wondering if potentially pasta made from fresh ground flour, if it has water mixed with it, and then it's created and then dried, is this something that's going to end up going rancid? I have not been able to find anything. Like, is it something that I could potentially take an afternoon and make myself several pounds of pasta that I will, like I said, then just like dry in my dehydrator, and then could I create something that I can then use? I'm not sure. So even if maybe I could take it and put it in the freezer, we can see. So I have a lot of experiments planned coming up for both home ground flour pastas and bean-based pastas. And like I said, I will link that guide down below. And then if you're wanting to look up any of this stuff, look up pasta bianca if you need an egg-free pasta or whatever. So yes, that is kind of a fun update, fun thing happening, fun plans that I have in front of me, things to play with and have fun with. I have been experimenting and playing with doing sourdough with the home ground flours. I'm still using a little bit of white flour mixed in with the home ground flour. So part of the issue with the home ground or freshly milled grains is they kickstart fermentation very quickly. So you can have things, it's very easy for things to over ferment, like before you end up forming gluten structure and things like that. Whereas most of the time people are making sourdough kind of with white flour, the fermentation is not really being kickstarted with the white flour. And so you have these beautiful long fermentation times that also have these beautiful long times to form all of these gluten strands. That's how you get those sourdough loaves that have like such an intricate web of beautiful bubbles inside, because they've, you know, proofed and they've had time to form that structure. Whereas with the home ground flour, at least as far as I can tell, the fermentation happens so quickly that you don't really develop a lot of structure in the bread, and there's problems with it. So oftentimes when people are making sourdough from home ground flour, they're using at least some percentage of all-purpose flour, and it's obviously not going to be, it's not, people like the purists are not going to like that, right? Like people who want everything to be perfect or else they can't have any of it, you know? People who are like, oh, I know, only do 100% whole grain flour, wouldn't like that. But I'm kind of on the fence. So I made actually really beautiful and delicious sourdough bread that was 50% home ground wheat and 50% all-purpose, all organic and everything. As far as I know, like I can't tell with the whole flour thing, so somebody else who knows better might be able to tell me. I have a little hummingbird visiting outside my window now. I get so distracted by all the sweet little wildlife that we have out here. Although hummingbirds are not sweet. I should tell you a story, but I'm gonna stay on track with the flour thing. I don't know, is all-purpose flour like literally poison in your body, or is it like just devoid of nutrition? That's the thing that I'm having a hard time figuring out. So if anybody knows, just let me know. So I'm feeling like, because when I make the 100% home milled flour breads, even though they're really good, I notice my family does not go through them very quickly. Like it's still really good, but it's not the bread that they're used to. And a lot of times, I think because for whatever reason, it will not form as much of a structure inside, that you don't get that chew that you get with like sourdough. And they've been eating sourdough for so many years, they're used to kind of a chew to it. But when I did the sourdough with the 50% home milled flour and 50% all purpose, I actually got quite a lovely bread that still has some great chew to it. And they ate through it super fast. And I'm kind of like, well, I'm thinking moving forward, even though I'll still continue to do a lot of the home milled flour, like for instance, as far as treats and stuff, like I've made tortillas, I've made muffins and cookies and brownies, I've made biscuits, I've made all kinds of things substituting home milled flour for all purpose, and they turn out absolutely delicious. Like to the point that I feel like people wouldn't even realize that they were home milled flour unless I say something about it. Absolutely amazing. In fact, I made this batch of cheddar vegan biscuits. Obviously they're not cheddar, real cheddar, but these fake cheese biscuits are kind of like a Red Lobster biscuit dupe that I did with my home milled flour, and I took it out to a prayer group that we attend, and the lady who hosts the prayer group, my friend Phoebe, actually loved them so much. And then she had some friends visiting from Malaysia the next week, and she was like, can you make me a batch of those biscuits and I'll pay you? And I was like, you don't need to pay me, I'll just make you a batch of biscuits. I love her with all of my heart. So no, she doesn't need to pay me. But she still Venmo'd me anyway, because she tried to hand me cash and I said no, and then she sent it to me on Venmo. So sneaky, very sneaky. But so I made her a big batch of these biscuits that she was going to share with her friends, because she was having guests and she wanted them. That's how much she loved those biscuits. So they were really delicious. And she's not even vegan. And so yeah, the home milled flour stuff has turned out absolutely delicious. And people so far have had hugely positive things to say. And in our family as well. I used Khorasan wheat this last time when I made, and I think it's usually, you see it as Camu, but I'm pretty sure Camu, K-A-M-U-T, is the brand name, but Khorasan, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is just the wheat itself without it. That's the type of wheat it is, but not the brand name. So I used Khorasan wheat, and I made a batch of tortillas that I just didn't use a recipe. It's just like I use like all the time back in the day, the way I used to always make my tortillas, no recipe. You sort of add enough water to make a dough that's a really soft dough. You're aiming for a soft dough, one that's actually honestly a little sticky. Like if it's sticking to your hands just a little bit, that's ideal. Because then when you go to knead, don't add any flour at all. Even if it's sticking, it's like smearing across your counter at first, and you're gonna be like, this is a mess and this is terrible and I hate this. I'm not talking about something that's leaving you with full dough gloves. I'm talking about like, you might see like speckles of flour left on your hands. So it's like at that kind of level of sticky, and you use a bench scraper to be picking it up and knead your dough. And after, 5 or 10 minutes, it's probably closer to 10 minutes, honestly, with the Khorasan wheat, it seemed like it took a long time. I was just kneading, and eventually it stops sticking. It stops doing that because the gluten structure is forming, and as the structure is forming inside the dough, it's sticking less because you want it to stick to itself and not to you. But the temptation, of course, is to add flour. But when you add flour, you end up drying out the dough. And so ideally you start with tortillas anyway. Now, granted, I'm not Mexican, so you don't you don't necessarily have to take my word for it. But I grew up in Texas and here in Phoenix, so I know me some tortillas at this point in my life, okay? So I've just sort of picked up my own thing, the way that I do it. I had thrown in some vegan butter into the tortillas and a little bit of salt and a little bit of baking powder, but again, there was no recipe. And so I just kneaded it, and then once I got to that point, it was still super soft, but it was no longer sticking to me, and it was doing a little bit of a window pane. And I made these tortillas out of the Khorasan home milled flour. They were so good. They were obviously whole wheat tortillas. It's not going to like suddenly taste like an all-purpose tortilla, but they had a beautiful chew. They got tons of bubbles in them, just like a, you know, a regular tortilla does. And it's just been great. I've been having so much fun with this stuff. So I've made so many things. I don't mean to keep jaw-jacking about all the things that I've done, but there's been a lot, and I haven't been here and I haven't been filming. There's been a lot going on. I'm sort of just like living my life without setting the camera up, and I really need to start setting the camera up when I do these things. But yes, I'm planning on setting my camera up when I experiment with the pastas. So hopefully that's good. But I will have a lot more, I believe, to say moving forward about the home milled flours and all of that. But okay, so we talked about all that. Let's go ahead and talk, I guess, a little bit about some of the kind of sadder things. And okay, I'm re-recording this part because I realized I think I did kind of go too far. I started talking a little bit too much about details, but the very short version of it is we have a very dear loved one who is sliding deeper and deeper into dementia. And the reality of that is that I never know from day to day if I'm going to have a huge chunk of my day taken from me, like at a moment's notice, because I never know. And it's happening more and more frequently. And then not even if I don't have to physically go help with something or do something, like super innocuous task. You think this is a very simple task. It will eat up 3.5 hours of my day. Simple math or sorting keys or whatever. The other day, waiting for a tow truck driver that ended up being completely unnecessary. Over 4 hours, I sat and waited and was helping with that. So stuff like that. So that has been taking up a lot of my time. And just trying to figure out how to balance my own family life, because it's like I still have a family I have to take care of, but then I feel like now I have this other family I have to take care of, you know, and so there's a lot going on. So yes, I have not been filming very much. And so that's the kind of sad thing that's going on. And I have stories, man. Oh my gosh, I have stories. I'm sure everybody who has dealt with somebody with dementia has stories. And so, yeah, I think last week alone, and this is like after my surgery, while I'm recovering from my surgery, I had, I'm trying to think, 3 separate instances. First one, because I like to keep track of it, to tell Adam. It's like first one was 3.5 hours. The second time was over 4 hours. And then the last time just yesterday was a little over 2 hours. So yeah, and this is just in 1 week, not to mention all the phone calls. I often will get 6 to 7 phone calls a day, about, you know, various whatever things. And I never know, like I said, which phone call is going to be the one that draws me out. And so it's very difficult on me in a lot of ways. There's so many layers to the difficulty, right? Like between the logistical difficulty of attempting to care for my family and recover myself and care for other family and just like logistical details. It's also obviously emotionally very difficult to face kind of this new reality, and the reality that probably pretty soon this person can't live by themselves anymore. How do we broach this subject? How do we deal with that and all of that? So anyway, that's what's going on. So definitely keep me in your prayers. And if you have any advice or thoughts on any of that, let me know in the comments down below, because I feel like I'm a bit out to sea. Like, I have no idea. Let's just like paddle in one direction and hope that it works. And then, you know, I got nothing. So anyway, yeah, anyway, just give me some help and some advice on that. So anyway, let's go ahead, and I guess I'll move on from that. Like I said, I had to re-record because I was getting a little too detailed. Like once I started talking about the stories, they started pouring out of me. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I might need to like see a therapist or something instead. It's just like, oh my gosh. Okay. So now that is definitely something that's been taking up time. And I don't mean that in a callous or mean way. I don't mean to say it's a mean way, like this person, now they're taking up so much of my time. That's not what I'm saying. But it's like logistically speaking, right? Just realistically, like I just said, a lot of my time is being diverted unexpectedly at times, and sometimes it's for like hours at a time. And so I'm still moving forward though with some of my other plans. And so like yesterday, unfortunately, I was not able to help at all. And I'm trying to remember all the other things that have been taking place, that we were so late, but January is kind of our cutoff for planting potatoes. And so Adam and Elliot and Sage yesterday, they built a new bed. And so we're putting in a new bed outside. We're planting an entire bed of potatoes. And I'm very excited about that. I have an entire bed of garlic, and now I'm going to have an entire bed of potatoes. I felt bad that I couldn't help, but oh well, it is what it is at this point. And so they're getting it in the ground. And so that is potentially going to be really exciting. The only thing is apparently the size of the bag. So we had shrinkflation hit us in our soil. We finally found another source locally for some vegan soil. But then the bags that we bought this time were like, I can't remember what Adam said. They were like so many, like a half a cubic foot or maybe a little more than that, smaller than the last time we purchased them. And the last time we purchased them were just a few months ago. And so he bought the same number of bags, but because he didn't notice that they were smaller, and he only noticed because we still had one left over from the garlic bed that we built, and then he noticed how many cubic feet there were and it was smaller. So he says he's going to have to go get 3 more bags of that soil today when he's, you know, off at work. And so he's going to do that. And then tonight we'll put the lights on outside because it'll be dark by the time he gets home, but we'll stick the lights on outside in the backyard, and he and Elliot will go out there and finish out the laying of the dirt and the planting. And that's very exciting moving forward. I'm beginning to treat my garden much more like I want it to produce huge yields from me. So far, a lot of it has just been like, let's just see what works. And then I just sort of like have a lackadaisical approach. But I'm beginning to kind of say, no, I want to have a large crop of garlic. I want to have a large crop of potatoes. I want to have large crops of these, you know, various items. And so we're going to start seeing. And so this year I'm kind of experimenting. 2024 is all about kind of, I'm going to be crunching numbers and experimenting. How much can I grow in a single bed, say, of the garlic, so that in 2025, hopefully, I can become completely garlic sufficient for myself, and I don't have to purchase any more garlic from the store. I'm going to do the same kind of thing with potatoes, even though I don't believe I'm ever going to become self-sufficient on potatoes, because kind of depending on the month, we can go through 50 pounds of potatoes in 1 month. Sometimes it's closer to 2 months, but still, that's a lot of, even if it was 50 pounds of potatoes, every 2 months, we're looking at, what, 300 pounds of potatoes in 1 year that we would go through. And I'm not sure that I even have the growing space to grow that much less, I don't have a cool storage area where I could keep potatoes good for like a whole year. I don't believe that I have the ability to do that. I may be able to have 2 growing seasons of potatoes. So that's something that I kind of need to look at with the timing of stuff. And so anyway, like I said, 2024 is just sort of crunching numbers. I'm going to see how many potatoes do we yield from this one bed and try to do some math on how much is that, how much could we produce, how long can we make it last, all that stuff too. So, but like I said, for now, it's kind of crunching numbers and figuring it out. The next, big thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be planting, and this is not, you know what, it's not a plug. Give me a second. I mean, I guess it's kind of a plug, but I'm not going to put the sponsored thing because this is it's just my plans. So I had gotten this from Survival Garden Seeds, and so remember that there is a giveaway going on. So I'm going to put the link to the giveaway in the description box below, and you can go to win one of these. But they sent me their heirloom seed packet for these like medicinal herbs. I'm going to plant basically everything that it's possible to plant and try to grow, and this has always been my thing, trying to grow as many herbs as possible, because honestly, you end up saving so much money if you can grow a lot of your stuff yourself. So one of the things that's in here, for instance, is black cumin. And so that's actually one of the reasons I want to become self-sufficient in garlic, is because we spend so much money on garlic because we eat so much garlic. I would love to be able to grow all of my own garlic. But they have black cumin in here, and I need to do a little bit more research, and just I'm trying to figure out how many herbs can I grow myself. I was originally going to focus too on like everything we do. So another one that we use a lot of is basil, but I personally don't find myself very motivated at all to grow basil anymore, because I can pick up a 1 pound bag of basil, and I don't know if you realize how big a 1 pound bag of like a leafy herb is. Whether it's nettles or oat straw or basil or lemon balm or whatever, you can get these giant, like it's a giant bag of a leafy herb. But for basil specifically, organic basil is like $8 for a whole pound. It's a giant bag. You realize how much space I have to use up and how much time it takes to dry and put all that stuff up. And as soon as I saw that that's how cheap it was on Azure, I was kind of like, you know what? I know how to grow basil. I have the knowledge. But I no longer have any motivation whatsoever to do so. So I will put stuff off and focus a little bit more on things that cost more. And so obviously garlic and potatoes are not things that are huge cost items. But honestly, the way that I purchase them, the way that we eat them in our house, they do end up becoming, you know, a rather large chunk of our grocery because, you know, spices especially and all of that stuff. So I want to try to grow as much as I can by myself. And even like medicinal herbs. Again, even if I decide it's not really worth the trouble, I want to get the knowledge. I want to know the growth cycles and what time to plant what, you know, out here, because we have such a different growing season, growing environment, you know, than the vast majority of people who are growing a lot of these medicinal herbs. Like, there are people who can just walk outside and they just have nettles and plantain on the ground. I'm like, so jealous, but I'm gonna have to seed plantain into my yard, and nettles too. I'm still trying to figure out a place where nettles might grow in my yard. But yeah, that's kind of my goal as well. So that's also kind of looking forward. And I was going to possibly, like, I actually have, because I had cleared a garden bed before my surgery, I have a whole bunch of catnip in my dehydrator right now, as well as a bunch of sage that I grew in my garden. I was thinking about showing, you know, the process of getting those out of the dehydrator and, you know, stripping the leaves off of the stems, because when I dehydrate my herbs, especially, even though it makes it take way longer, I like to dry them on the stick, like, or on the stem, whatever that happens to be. And like for rosemary, it tends to be more of a stick, right? But for like catnip and basil and lemon balm and things like that, it's more of a stem. But I like to dry them like that because I find it much easier to strip it once it's dry than to deal with stripping everything when it's still wet. And so that's just my personal preference. And I dry everything like that. I was going to show kind of how I do that, but I think this video has already gotten long enough because I got talking. I'm going to leave it here. So there's my update. And so yeah, hopefully I'm gonna be in a place where I can start filming more and doing more. I have to start telling myself, even if I don't know what I'm doing yet, I should be filming what I'm doing, for those of you who enjoy watching kind of an experimental process. And yeah, I guess that's it. And I'm gonna go. I will go ahead now and try to throw together a quick little lunch for me and Sage. She is not hungry when she gets home because the last thing they do at school is have a big snack. like a relatively sizable snack. It's not quite a lunch, but it's like it's enough because they're still pretty little kids. And so I don't usually feed her lunch immediately when she gets home because she's just not ready for it. But I'll try to throw together kind of a little late lunch for us, and then I'm off to the doctor for my update, my surgery update appointment. And then later, I guess, like I said, I'll probably make some bread. I'll be picking up my son from school. I might deal with the stuff in the dehydrator, even though I already told myself it was just bread, just bread. I have to like calm myself down. I'll see how I feel. How much help can I get? And yeah, but the bread is serious. We do need some more bread. And yeah, anyway, that's it. Just let me know what you think about any of that in the comments down below. It's been too long. I have too many things to talk about. But anyway, as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Thank you so much for watching and just being here. Let me know if you made it to the end. I always kind of like to know that. Anybody who sat long enough through all of my talking, did you make it? That's kind of cool. I just know. I just think it's nice. Okay, so anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. Just wanted to say really fast because I meant to say this at a certain point, kind of discussing a little bit of the chaos that we've been going through lately. And, you know, especially like I can't go to the store. Adam has to go to the store, but he's working and all that. That again, I find myself so ridiculously grateful for all of this, the store of food that we have, that we're not just like eating random kind of thrown together stuff. We're still eating really well. We are basically still totally fine. And so it's like, if we don't make it to the store for a couple weeks because we're super busy, we're eating just fine. And so I've said it before, and I will reiterate that there is not many issues, I think, that we can face in this life that are not made easier or better by some food storage. And so anyway, it's just a very practical and everyday kind of reason to keep this kind of stuff on hand. And yeah, anyway, I guess that's it. I'm gonna actually leave you now. Okay, bye.